let's talk about what's actually coming out in our next release, which just came out this month, October. So release 2020 R2. And this is going to be just a really high level description. So the first one is, let's talk about what's in Easy Reporter. So Easy Reporter has been enhanced to include reporting on additional fields, such as more date types allowed in InfoType 41, and a new ability to report on InfoType 624. We've also made some more declustered payroll tables available, as well as payroll cluster table ACCR for accruals. And last, some new fields that SAP introduced last year from the US tables BTX rate and T5UTX. Okay, the next thing I want to tell you about is on the topic of report download security. This is some new functionality. So as a user, you know that when you run a report, in the foreground, you have the little export icon above the ALV grid results that you can use to download the results, for example, to Excel. We've had some customers request that export ability be made unavailable in certain situations, and that's what this enhancement does. We've set it up so that the limitation can be handled at the user role level, or it can be linked to a particular report. So the next slide, I'm going to provide some clarification as to how those two settings work. So this first one is setting up an Easy Reporter user role to disallow the export option. So you can see here, we are in the part of the menu where if you're an administrator, you've gone in here to set up user roles. Double click on a role. There are options available that you can turn on or turn off for that particular role. And what we're doing here on the Input Output Security tab is checking the box to remove access for download to local file. So that would be the option that you would want to pick. And then here, if you want to do it, instead of attaching it to a user role, you just like to handle this on a per report basis, you can do that. So where I'm at now is I'm in a report, edit mode, tab 1, over here on the other settings little sub tab, and there's a new checkbox. Remove access for download to local file, same checkbox. So you can do that to just apply it to this particular report. Either way, here's what's going to happen. And I'm sorry, my screenshots are a little bit blurry, but this is our ALV across the top, and here you have that standard little export icon. It won't be there. So if you do this limitation, either way, it's just not going to be there when the person runs the report in foreground, so they won't be able to do it. If you're using web reporting, you have that same limitation will occur. I'm showing you here, this is what it looks like when you're running a report in web reporting and you have icons on the side that allow you to do things. The export result one won't be there. So I'm showing it here, but it won't be there if you've done this limitation. Okay, so now we're going to change gears and focus in on PDOM reporting. Got a little bit of a change there. So this enhancement's been a popular request. We've heard this several times. It said ability to report on changes that have been made to PD objects, like who made the change, when did they do it, etc. So we've added a whole new folder of fields, and it's called the Org Management Change Log. See it right here, and it's inside of this folder called Other Data Sources. And of course, I'm looking at tab 2. So inside of that folder, you've got new fields that you can utilize that will actually show you for your PDOM objects the change, who changed, the typical change type of information that you're looking for, like job codes and such. Who changed it? When was it maintained? Right, so now you have that available, and notice that if you use fields from that folder, the minute you drag those onto the report, you will get an additional selections tab automatically created. So when you go to run the report, you will have that tab, and it has some selection options all related to that. And here's an illustration of an example report using those fields. I actually just went into that folder and dragged all of them on, probably more than I would ever, want to actually have in real life. As you can see, it made like 20 columns going across the page. But this is a sample of what it looks like. And then I also noted here, if you happen to be familiar with the standard SAP transaction code, RHC doc display. That's kind of what we're doing. So if you're used to that, now you can do it through Easy Reporter, which gives you the benefit of, attaching the ability to email it, to, have it go to a file, all those things that, we can give you that you wouldn't get from the standard SAP. Okay, so I mentioned web reporting back there just a minute ago. Now we're going to talk a little bit more about some changes to web reporting. So first off, we're giving you the ability in Web Reporter to run a report based on a financial year. You have that in reports through the SAP GUI, but now you can do it through web reporting. Then we've got, in a similar way, some other things that we've extended that you've seen from the GUI side, but now you can do it through the web version. You can enter in for a pay-to-pay comparison report. You can have those same options to say previous period, meaning the most recent, or other period, where you can identify a different prior period for your pay-to-pay. You also down here at the bottom have those two fields, those two drop downs you're used to seeing, that when you're running for payroll results, you can pick, like regular payroll runs, all pay runs, that selection about end date versus pay date. Okay, so we're just, fleshing out the web reporter, so that's including all those options that you're used to seeing via the SAP GUI version of running Easy Reporter. All right, so next up, I'm going to roll into Easy Clone, just a little bit there to show you. So a few enhancements, namely some changes to the audit log to make it more helpful when you are copying Employee Central data along with your payroll information. We also have added some Canadian tax info types as defaults to be included in the copying. And then we did make some back-end improvements in how metadata differences are handled, again, when you're doing a cloning that also is including Employee Central data. So let's start with the audit log enhancements. For the Employee Central fields, I'm trying to point out to you here a little bit of what the audit log looks like when you are copying those kind of fields. Notice that you have two rows for the same field. We have a get and we have a post. So the get is really the action to retrieve the data that's being cloned from the source, and then the post is, okay, now I'm writing the data to the target. Each one of those has its own little log section that you can connect to using the eyeglasses. And then once you do that, this is what's new, where we've enhanced and given you a lot more log information. You use those eyeglasses, you come over here for either one of those, the get process or the post process. You're going to see these 4 tabs. Each one of these tabs has information. It's the like the everything that happened. Just explaining to you what happened, and you can go through here and see if there's errors and such. It's a little bit technical looking, but at least it's all there. And so, especially if you're familiar with Employee Central and working in SuccessFactors, it'll make even more sense to you as you're going through. But at least you now have the information through these 4 different tabs. You will see that. All right, and then completing the clone updates. I mentioned Canadian tax info types. So what I'm showing you here, I'm talking about info types 461 through 464. They've always been available for being included in a clone. You just have to come over here and check the boxes. Well, now we've changed it so that by default, the boxes are checked. So you don't have to remember to do that because they are important to have. You need to have those to be able to run payroll. If you clone people over and then you're going to run some payrolls on them, you're going to have those info types. So they are now going to be defaulted in there for you. So you won't have to remember to check the box.